terms of the armed forces. We want all the wokery gone, out. You know, we want the army to... The army's there to kill people.
Kemi Badenoch, you've already poked fun at her. Do you think she's the wrong person to be leading the Tories?
It'll all be over by Christmas. As for Starmer, I want him to stay as long as possible.
Hello, I'm JJ and this is Yobi, and welcome to another episode of the Daily Expresso. On this brand new show, we'll dive into the biggest stories of the day and attempt to make sense of what's really going on. From Westminster drama to global headlines, this is where the news gets unpacked. I'll always be joined by a special guest, and today is no exception. Joining me is the fantastic Carol Malone. Carol, raise your right hand. Do you promise to be on your best behaviour today? Right.
Not in a million years.
Close enough.
How's married life?
It's good.
Good.
Fantastic.
Yeah.
Thanks for remembering.
She's not sick of you yet.
No, you know, a lot of people have been asking me that. She's not divorced you yet.
Give her time. It'll happen.
Right. Yesterday, we brought you part one of the exclusive interview that we recorded with Nigel Farage. And today, we want to show you a little bit more of the conversation that we had. In this segment, I asked the leader of Reform about their policies beyond immigration, beyond Brexit, and also Farage's political rivals. I saw a video last week, I think, Vox Pops, people being asked about reform. The only policy they really knew about is immigration. So outside of immigration, what are the big policies for reform?
Well, you know, crime. We've been campaigning all summer on crime. We want to go back to a zero tolerance approach. As I said earlier, shoplifters will be prosecuted. Not, just take, a case of cheap wine, it'll be all right, as long as it costs less than 200. The whole thing's mad. So crime, I think, is becoming increasingly important. Economics, we're very much on the side of the little man, little woman. It's 5.5 million small businesses in Britain. No one's done them any favours. In fact, they've been punished and penalised for a very, very long time. I think in terms of the armed forces, we want all the wokery gone, out. We want the army to... The army's there to kill people. That's actually what it's there for, to defend the country and kill people. And we need to perhaps sort of, rethink that. And education needs absolute wholesale reform. Okay. We've really had enough of our kids in too many schools being poisoned about this country, its history, what it's all about, and a much bigger emphasis on trades and skills as opposed to degrees in social sciences, which very often don't help a person in the workplace. There's just a few little ideas we put out there. We also want to reverse the flow of high taxpayers out of Britain. If the very richest people who pay the biggest taxes leave the country, it means everybody else has got to pay more. We've launched a proposed bill on cryptocurrencies and digital assets. 1 in 4 people under 30 is involved in that world in some way. Westminster's completely ignored the whole thing. We want to bring back manufacturing. I mean, look, there's a very, very long list of things that we have campaigned on. Now, generally with the public, most of whom are too busy living their lives to read every detail, they generally identify political parties with one big major cause. And if the one big major cause they identify us with is the immigration issue, firstly because of the unfairness and potential risk of illegal immigration, risk to women and girls on our streets, risk to national security, because we've no idea who these young men are. And if they also link us to the legal immigration, which has seen a population explosion. I mean, just look at the roads. You can't move anywhere during the month of August. Look at the housing crisis. So if we're identified with that and all the knock-on effects of that, that's not a bad thing.
If you become Prime Minister, are we going to see Brexit played out properly?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's very disappointing. I mean, Boris rode off the back of Brexit. He got into, number 10 with a big majority at that election and did nothing with it. Now, they blame COVID, but I'm not sure. I think, the establishment governing Tory party, they never believed in it. They never believed in it. It was, for most of them, it was a damage limitation exercise rather than an opportunity. I think, the betrayal of people like our fishing communities to allow the foreign boats access within our 6 and 12 mile area for another 11 years. Just one example of how we could have done so much better with it. And now, of course, Starmer doing everything he can to try and incrementally reverse, Brexit bit by bit.
Kemi Badenoch, you've already poked fun at her. Do you think she's the wrong person to be leading the Tories?
It'll all be over by Christmas.
You think so?
Oh yeah, she'll be gone.
Anyway, who's going to take her spot? Generic?
Robert Generic. Yeah. Yeah. I mean, he's been through it. He's been like St. Paul on the road to Damascus. This blinding light in the sky has suddenly appeared, and he's had the Manjaro jabs, and he's got a new Savile Row suit. Yes, very nice. Had his teeth done, you know, and you can trust Rob.
So Kemi out by Christmas. What about Starmer? What's your prediction for him?
Kemi out by Christmas. I would put Kemi out by Christmas at 50-50.
Okay.
50-50. She may stay on till May. Mm-hmm. And I think in May they will be wiped out in Scotland, pretty much wiped out in Wales, and almost cease to be a national party. This is historic. What's going on here is historic. This is a bit like the early 1920s eradication of the Liberal Party. You know, they'd won 3 general elections, consecutive elections before World War One, and they were gone, replaced by Labour, never to come back. As for Starmer, I want him to stay as long as possible. But I'm not sure. Obviously it's a very tiring job and a very tough job, but it's not easy. And, you know, as Prime Minister, you're responsible for the sins of everybody else. Mm-hmm. You know, I sympathise to that level. But I did think before the recess, there was a look about him in the eyes. He kind of looked beaten. He looked really now. Maybe he comes back refreshed. I don't know. But it looked to me like he really wasn't enjoying it in any way at all. But who else have they got? You know, I mean, that's a good question.
Yeah.
And I don't know the answer to it. So I think he'll be there for a bit. I would be surprised if he wasn't there for at least another couple of years.
So a decent list of other plans or the policies there from Farage. Anything stand out for you? Anything impressed you?
The shoplifting thing stands out for me. Crime is one of the most important issues in this country after immigration. You know, what is incredible is that 94% of crimes are never solved in this country. Think about that. Only 6% of crimes are solved. How can that be? We have 150,000 coppers on the streets, more than we've had in the last 7 years, and yet only 6% of crimes are solved. So only 1.3% of rape cases, people that are charged with rape, ever get to court. Think about that. 98 point whatever percent never get to court. So rape has almost been decriminalised in this country. But back to shoplifting. It costs this country 2.2 billion a year. It costs retailers 2.2 billion a year. Used to be regarded as a petty little crime, not very important. Now it's massive. In London alone, it's 9.2 million a month. In London, it's increased by 54% over the past couple of years. And it's now no longer a small crime. And yet, you can get arrested for a tweet. But if you go into a supermarket, fill your trolley up with, you know, meat and whatever and booze and run out, nothing ever happens to you. You know, Farage mentioned the £200 limit. It's not even that. It's limitless what you can steal. And most of these guys who are security guards in stores are told never to tackle the shoplifters in case they get hurt. What is the point of employing these people if you don't do it? So I think there's an increasing feeling of lawlessness now.
Yeah,
and people don't feel safe.
But shouldn't the supermarkets do more about that then? Shouldn't the supermarkets be hiring actual ex-army veterans, people who are able? In my local Tesco or Sainsbury's, it's men who look about age 60 plus who just stand there and say, if they're told to do nothing, that's not our fault.
Even the ones that are young and not 60 plus, they're still told not to tackle them. And in case they get hurt or in case they hurt the thief. And the bottom line is the cops should be there for this. You know, not too very long ago, I remember if someone was caught shoplifting, they were put in a room upstairs by the staff and the cops were called. Now you can call them till you're blue in the face and they're not coming because they don't regard it as a serious crime. You send a nasty tweet to somebody, wow, that's a big crime. You know, 5 people can come and arrest you for that. But for this, it doesn't happen. And it is finishing retailers in this country, because there's nothing they can do about it, and it's making, you know, someone from the government said recently that we should tackle shoplifters. No, we damn well shouldn't. That's their job. It's not our job. And it's funny, I was talking to a woman recently who did tackle a shoplifter. She got stabbed. You're not going to do that. Why would you? Well, it's the copper's job.
I did stop a bike thief once.
Well, you would. You're a big lad.
I'm a very big lad.
But most people couldn't. And what did he do to you?
The guy I stopped, nothing. I pinned him to the floor.
Good lad.
Called the police. Cops came and took him away.
Well, that's good.
Yeah.
But most times the cops would say, actually, we're a bit busy, we can't come. So you'd be sitting on him all day. It's just, it doesn't, you can't expect, the cops have differing messages, don't they? On the one hand, they're saying, don't you get involved or you could make it worse. On the other hand, they're saying, well, it's your responsibility. Thieving is not our responsibility. It is the responsibility of the cops who get plenty of money to deal with it, and they're just not doing it.
Nigel Farage said a lot of decent sounding ideas, but I'm not convinced he'll be able to do it when in government. Where are we going to get the money from? He says he wants to have the courts open 24 hours a day if need be to prosecute more people. Our prisons are full, so where are they going to go? They're going to suddenly build more prisons. Everything that he says sounds nice, but in reality, is it likely to happen?
It's not that it sounds nice. I think he's currently the only politician who's in tune with the thoughts and the fears of the British people. And so when he says stuff like that, it makes sense. Now, okay, it's not going to be easy to do what he's saying, but, courts open 24/7, that sounds like a really good idea to me. And I think he's got. Thank God the election won't be tomorrow, because I think he's got a long way to go. But I do think he's taking on some great people. Some of the women he's got in that party now are awesome. They've got, you've got Andrea Jenkins, who's awesome. You've got a woman called Layla Cunningham, who is going to make big noise in the near future. She's so smart. You've got Sarah Pochin. There's some really impressive people in that party now. You can't write it off as a silly little racist party anymore. And he's putting out things now that he's going to do. Unlike Starmer, who never, ever had a plan. He came in saying he had a plan. It was clear within a week he didn't have one. This guy's putting things in place. He's meeting foreign dignitaries. He's going abroad. He's had a meeting with people in Rwanda saying, can we still process people there when I'm in power? And they've said yes. So he's actually doing things. So I have high hopes.
The army being woke.
Okay.
I've never heard that before in my life. I've heard the army's got the highest levels of obesity in 50 years, which I think is disgusting and disgraceful. How can you be in a regiment where you're literally exercising every day and you've got people in there who are obese? That to me is crazy. But
because you're not exercising every day.
Yeah,
that's the point.
And the diet's on. But what
Yes,
is the army woke? I don't believe they are.
I think it's part of the reason that they have a recruitment crisis at the moment. There was a group of 12 retired army generals wrote the Telegraph recently, and they were talking about the woke and extremist culture that is now permeating through the army's ranks. Things like you're having to use gender-neutral pronouns. Mm-hmm. Soldiers are being allowed to wear makeup and have their hair long to express their feminine side. No. As Farage says, the army, you're in the army to kill people. And you've got to be prepared to fight and die for your country. It strikes me that people who want to put a bit of Libby on before they go into battle is not the kind of person you want in the army.
War paint, isn't it?
No, it's not war paint. That's not why they're putting it on. They're expressing their feminine side. But what these generals were saying basically is that we've got to bring back the old-fashioned, the old school things of patriotism and unity back into the army instead of diversity. There was a story recently about how the army are now making it easier for people of colour to get into the ranks. They're putting diversity, the colour of someone's skin and where they're from, above the efficacy of the army, which is crazy. You want people who are prepared to fight and die for their country. It doesn't matter what colour their skin is. To me, this is one of those occasions where the colour of your skin, it's one of many occasions where the colour of your skin actually doesn't matter. You have to be prepared to fight and train. You have to be a patriot. You have to be prepared to do all the stuff that goes with being in the military. And I think that's the only important thing. And if you're making it easier for people of colour to get in, which they are, that was the criticism. They're making the recruitment process easier for people of colour. Well, then you might not necessarily get the kind of people you need for your crack fighting force. You might be making it easier for people to get a job who don't really want that job, who aren't really committed to it. And I think what do you think?
I think if, as Nigel Farage says, excuse me, the army is for killing. Essentially, that's the job. If you can pass the fitness tests and you are able to go into battle and kill people, that is what you're paid to do.
Well, it is, but that's not what these retired generals were saying. They were saying the policies now is to make it easier for people of colour to get into the ranks than white people, because just to fulfil diversity quotas. You don't want that.
No, of course not. But arguably, previously, when we used to have decent recruitment in the armies, they were going to the poorest cities and towns in the country. We were only getting the kind of young men who were dropping out of school at age 16 because they didn't feel they had any better options.
Not a terrible thing.
Well, but they were literally targeting the poorest in society. I think if we're changing that now and we're going to say, actually, we're not just going to get the people who have the lowest ambition, the people who have got the least opportunity, we're going to widen the net, then I think that's a good thing. I don't see that as being woke.
Well, they're not wide. No. They're talking about specifically the diversity policy, and they're talking about just things like people in charge in the army, of the office, they're having to be bothering with gender pronouns. No, you shouldn't have to be bothering with that when you're trying to put together an elite fighting force. You should not. And you're talking in terms of them going into poorer communities. That's not a terrible thing, because the people from those communities tend to be very patriotic. They need a job. They go into the army. They get trained. They can become fighters, engineers. They can become whatever. It opened up a whole new world to people. And a world of opportunities that they didn't have before. So I don't think that was a terrible thing. I think the army gives people dignity.
Well,
and
Carol,
it gives them a purpose.
So next time you're on the show, no makeup, and I'm not going to call you Miss, okay?
You can call me what you like. Lots of people do, as you know.
Let's move on to Generic, or Robert Generic,
Yeah.
as Farage calls him. A fan? Is he the real deal?
No, I'm not a fan at all. I think he's a bit of a wazzock, actually. But can I say that?
You can say wazzock.
I've just said it. I think he's not real. I think he's not sincere. I think he wants the top job and he's prepared to do anything to get it. And I think Farage was quite right when he said he's lost all this weight. He's been on the fat jabs. He's had his teeth done. He still looks like a wazzock. But I don't believe him. I don't believe he's sincere. However, that said, he is talking about the issues that matter to people in a way that Kemi Badenoch is not. Why is it his voice we hear every day in the media about immigration, about crime, about trans issues? Why is it his voice we're hearing and not hers? And you have to say he's doing a better job of being Tory leader than she is. Mm-hmm. But I don't trust him as far as I could throw him. I don't believe he's sincere. I don't think he necessarily believes everything he's saying. And I don't want a leader for the Tories that's not a politician of conviction. That's what we need.
Okay, finally, Starmer. Is he going to emerge from the recess as a revitalised man? Is he going to finally galvanise the Labour Party?
No, I think he's going to be the same old fibbing, no policy, no plan politician that he's always been. It's interesting, Farage said he looked like he was beaten. He saw it in the back of his eyes. I just think that looks like he's vacant. He doesn't know what he's doing and he doesn't know where he's going. And the job is beyond him. And I think it's become really clear to him and everyone else that he can't do this job.
Yeah. Okay, well, make sure you tune in tomorrow for more box office moments from that Farage interview. And whilst I've got you, hit the subscribe button and hit the like button. It helps us, but it also helps you stay abreast of everything that we do here at the Daily Express. Now, the Chancellor has announced that the autumn budget will be delivered on 26th of November amid the pressure on her role after a cabinet shake-up. Concerns have been mounting over the UK's finances, with Rachel Reeves looking to fill an estimated £51 billion black hole in her upcoming autumn budget. Carol, I've been hearing for months, this is the end for Reeves. Reeves is gone. Her time is up. Is it finally time up for Reeves? Is she toast now?
Yeah, I think she'll deliver the autumn budget, and then I think she will be toast. And quite right, she should have been sacked months ago. In fact, if there'd been anybody vaguely that had the wit to replace her, I think she would have been replaced. But there isn't. She's the most fiscally incontinent woman. Chancellor we have ever had in this country. She's totally lost control of public spending. She inherited, she says, a £20 billion black hole. She's managed to increase that to a £50 billion black hole. Government debt is approaching now 100% of GDP. Inflation's gone up. Employment's gone up. Growth has gone down. I think the OBR said recently that we couldn't expect more than a 2% growth until the end of this parliament. We've got a tax burden at its highest level in peacetime. 17,000 millionaires have fled this country because of her policies. Another 3,500 company directors have fled this country because of her policies. Most of the money we're borrowing now, which is mind-blowing, isn't paying off the debt. It's paying off the interest on the debt. Deficit is out of control. It is astonishing what she has done in 12 short months. Rachel from accounts, I don't think she's ever been in an accounts department in her blooming life. And, we've got she was supposed to make cuts. And she had a chance to make cuts with a welfare bill. But she didn't have the cojones, and neither did Starmer. So that didn't happen. So she's saving no money. She's just spending money that we don't have. And she can't be allowed to carry on doing it. The IMF, there's been talk of an IMF bailout. Mm-hmm. Maybe that's premature. But if that happens, the whole government's gone. I mean, she or the rest of them couldn't stay if that happened. But it's terrifying that a lot of people, and it'll be a lot of people who read the Express and a lot of people watching this, have done the right thing all of their lives. They've saved, they've worked hard, they've got a pension together, they've done the right thing, and she is going to shaft them big time in this budget. She's going to take everything people have ever worked for. And she can't be allowed to do that. And Starmer, when he sacks her, the spotlight will then be on him because he signed off every single policy that she's ever made. And he's now taken on a series of economic advisors. They're calling them tax fanatics. And they're the people who are going to hit the middle classes, and the people who work hard, they're going to hit them really hard. The people who get benefits are going to be fine. The people who work hard are not going to be fine. And that's not fair.
Fiscally incontinent. I think we should trademark.
Well, yeah. Fantastic. Well, she is. She does not know what she's doing.
She's admitted herself the economy is not doing well.
Oh, hello.
Is it
not well? We're about to go off a cliff.
Is it purely her fault, or is there a bit of a wider problem? Dare I mention the B word, Brexit?
No, you can't mention that word at all because it's got nothing to do with that. That was in 2016.
The knock-on effect.
No, not the knock-on effect. The knock-on effects of that didn't affect the Tories in any major way. She inherited the fastest growing country across her economy in the E7, and she has completely banjaxed it in 14 months. It's everything she has done has been a misstep, and she will never recover from cutting the winter fuel allowance. You have a socialist government in power for the first time in years, and the first thing they do is they kick old people to the curb, take away the fuels whilst keeping 9.5 billion people on benefits who should be working. She'll never recover from that, and this government will never recover from that.
Right, Carl, I'm going to mention your favourite word now,
which is
role play.
Okay. Oh, is that my favourite? Okay. Are we going to do something terrible? Okay.
Imagine you are the new Chancellor of the Exchequer.
Yeah.
What do you do?
Well, no, that's the point. I don't know what to do, and I'm not going to pretend I do. But she said she did. She said she had a plan. She said everything the Tories had done was entirely wrong. So, I will tell you what I do. I would cut the welfare budget straight away. I would slash the number of public sector workers. This is the government who said they were going to cut down the public sector. Instead, they've increased it by 7,000. They're the people who, the minute they got into government, stupidly gave the train drivers loads of pay rises, junior doctors, thinking they wouldn't come back. And hey, presto, in a year, they've come back and they're asking for more. So that's the things that I would do straight away.
Well, Farage said that he would hire ministers who aren't elected MPs. I think that's actually a good idea.
It's a good idea.
But who would be your dream chancellor then? Or anyone of the cabinet? Who would you bring in to be in any position in the cabinet?
Well, a lot of the analysts that I read every day would make better chancellors than Rachel Reeves. A lot of the people who write in the media who are across the economy and across what economics means would be great. And I think it's a fantastic idea because people who have been in politics all their lives have no experience of the world, really. They live in a little bubble. He needs to hire people who have lived in the outside world, who have lived with working people, who have run businesses, know how it works.
But he has. His dad was a tool maker.
Well, if I hear my dad was a tool maker one time, I will bash my head off the wall. His dad owned a tool making factory, so he wasn't quite just the tool maker.
Father Ted co-creator Graham Linehan has said he was arrested at Heathrow Airport over social media posts sharing his views on trans rights. Writing on Substack, he said that after flying into the UK from Arizona, he was detained by 5 armed officers, put in a cell before being questioned over posts published on X back in April. Now, he was arrested over 3 posts on X. In one post, he wrote, "If a trans-identified male is in a female-only space, he is committing a violent, abusive act. Make a scene, call the cops, and if all else fails, punch him in the balls." In another, he posted a picture of what appears to be a trans rights demonstration with the caption, "A photo you can smell." He followed that post with the comment, "I hate them, misogynists and homophobes, F 'em. Well, I don't agree entirely with his language on social media, but it does seem bonkers that 5 armed officers are going to greet him at the airport because of what he said on social media.
First of all, take that tweet you just read out there about the trans ID male. If he's in a female space committing a violent, abusive act, make a scene, call the cops, or kick him in the balls, as you said. He has said clearly that last line was a joke. He's a comic, for goodness sake. This is what he does for a living. He's a comic. But none of the tweets that he put out there were likely to incite violence. You might be offended by them, but no one has a right not to be offended in a democracy. So you might not like what he says, but what this story proved to me was that the police forces in this country now, they've been radicalized. It's like they're a political arm of Stonewall. They're protecting the trans army in a way that no one else gets protected. You can't criticize. And this is what happens in a totalitarian state, where if you criticize something or somebody or an ideology, you get shoved in jail. The trans movement, trans is an ideology. It's an unproven ideology. And you're entitled not to believe in it. You're entitled to object to it. And so that's what Graham Linehan did. And as a result, he has lost his career. It has been wrecked by a lot of very aggressive, sometimes violent, entitled trans lobbyists who want to see people like him cancelled. And Graham Linehan has been cancelled, and it's not fair. And so I have a lot of other very respectable people. They too have been cancelled, lost their jobs, their reputation. And for what? Over an unproven ideology? No, it's not on. And this has caused international outrage. J.K. Rowling has come to his aid. Elon Musk has jumped into the battle. The U.S. Justice Department is now talking about the loss of free speech in the UK. So we're now becoming a laughingstock around the world, where we're arresting people because of tweets. And Storm has come out and had a go at the Met Police and said, catch real criminals. One of the figures that I quoted you before, 94% of our crimes go unsolved. This is why, because they're on social media going after people who put out tweets that they don't like.
But couldn't we just be a bit more British about it? And if he has these opinions, say it in a way that isn't ending with a punchline where you say punch the person in the balls and be violent.
That was a joke, but the part that I agree with, up to what he said when he said, if you find a trans-identified male in a female-only space, I'm afraid he's right. I would absolutely tell them to get out of my space. And now I have the law at the back of me to tell me that I'm able to do that. I should have had the law behind me before, but I didn't. But now I do. And I won't have it. And what it's looking like in this country now is the police, and in some cases the government, they don't give a stuff about women's rights. They don't give a stuff about what women want. They don't care about their safety. So, in that sense, he's absolutely right. And he's entitled not to like or support the lobby.
Mm-hmm. Well, Wes Streeting said we'd rather see our police on the streets than police in tweets. But Wes Streeting of Labour, isn't that a bit rich? He's in the Labour Party. Everything is now being governed online.
I think they're saying this stuff, and I think Starmer has said what he said, is because he realises the strength, the feeling in the country against this movement now, which has been protected at the expense of women, their safety and their personal spaces. And that is not on. Women fought long and hard to get equality and to get the kind of privacy that we have now. And we can't be having it invaded by a man who has decided he wants to be a woman. We can't have it. It's not fair on women.
Okay, let's cast our eyes east, as in China, one of the most momentous foreign policy meets of all time is taking place right now as Xi Jinping, Vladimir Putin, Kim Jong-un, they've all met in Beijing for China's largest ever military parade. Other people on the guest list included the Belarus president, Alexander Lukashenko, the Iranian president, the Indonesian president, the Myanmar junta chief, Min Aung Hlaing. It's basically a who's who of authoritarian leaders across the world. There were no Western leaders, absolutely none present, and an eye-watering amount of military hardware put on display. What's China trying to say? Is this China trying to send a message?
Yeah, very definitely. Don't mess with us. And yeah, that's what they're trying to say. It's trying to say, look, our weapons are bigger than your weapons, so don't have a go. I thought it really funny when the president said that his country was now unstoppable. And he said, we will never be intimidated by bullies. Now, who are the bullies here? The Chinese have been the bullies for a very long time. And it was quite interesting to see that, all the world's most dangerous dictators standing in the front line of that thing. Terrifying, really. But what I thought was interesting, it kind of made me laugh a bit. There was the military parade and you saw all the Chinese soldiers marching. I mean, the march was incredible. I'm presuming in China you get shot if you
Put a foot wrong.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So none of them do. And they were it was incredible to watch. But then they cut to Trump had decided to have a little bit of a military parade himself to celebrate, to poke him in the eye, but also to celebrate, it was the 200th anniversary of the American military, something like that. Might have the amount of years wrong. And he put a bunch of soldiers out. Well, they just like sloppy, a mess. None of them were marching in time, arms all over the place. Tatty old uniforms. And it just, I think whatever he was trying to achieve, Trump, in doing that, it kind of backfired big time.
Should we not be looking at the Chinese and saying we need to be more like them? In terms of, we were talking about the army earlier being woke. I guarantee there's no wokeness in the Chinese army.
Well,
there's no one saying to the leader, actually, sir, I want to have my long hair and makeup on today. Not going to happen.
I think Starmer's trying to make this country a bit like China, and throwing
hard-working, productive.
No, throwing people in jail for weird tweets. Keeping them in jail and torture them. I think he'd quite like that, really. No, I don't. We don't need to be more like China. We live in a democracy, and the democracy was working very well until Starmer got into power. Now it's not.
Our army has not gone downhill since Labour took over.
Okay, so you picked out the army. So it's not working very well. But there is a crisis with recruitment, and I think that's because a lot of people who you pointed out before, these guys from working class communities and stuff, who saw the armies as a way out of their life. I think young people now don't want to join the army. They don't want to fight. They're scared of it. They disapprove of it, and that's all very well. But we still do need an army. However you cut it. Because everyone says wars are going to be fought now. There's never going to be hand-to-hand combat. It's going to be all machine. No, it's not. Just look across the water at Ukraine. Hand-to-hand combat. It's been terrible. So we have to have a fighting force, and I don't know how we're going to get it. Actually,
China's formidable. They make great cars now that are rivaling American cars. Yeah. They're building inroads across Africa. They're a very powerful nation. Wouldn't it make more sense for us to say, actually, guys, let's sit down and see what we can do together?
But to get as productive as they are, they rule people with a rod of iron. There is no freedom in China. There is no freedom to do what you want, say what you want, to be what you want. I think, China at one end of the spectrum, where at the other, there's got to be something in the middle where, you have a combination of both. But no, I don't want us to be more like China, not in a million years.
Okay. So we are recording this at midday, and we've just got this news in now. Angela Rayner has admitted she did not pay enough stamp duty on her second home has considered resigning. The Deputy Prime Minister said that she has referred herself to the Independent Advisor on Ministerial Standards. Carol, this doesn't seem to be going away for her. I think she should consider harder about resigning and do it and stop talking about it. This woman, I just don't believe a word she says. She says she didn't know. Yes, I can't even say yes, she did, because that's probably illegal. However, she had, after what happened to her about the house, a couple of years ago when she said it wasn't her primary home, whatever, she will have had advice from the top people in government about what her stamp duty is. And the fact that she's now saying that I thought I'd done all the right things. This is just, how can we believe a word she says now? She says she's received inaccurate tax advice. Well, I suspect the tax advice she's had have been from people inside government to protect her so that there's not a cock-up like there was last time. And now this is the wrong advice. So how could this have happened? I mean, let's speculate on how it could have happened. Did she quote the wrong price for this flat?
I don't know. How can you, if you have top government advisors, if you have the top tax people telling you what to pay, how can you underpay?
Well, we don't know she had top government advisors. We don't know who
Well,
she got the advice
do
from.
we think she went to somebody in Wythenshawe?
I think.
And outside Manchester? No, she
I'll
didn't.
tell you what I'd have done. If it was me, I'd have gone for the cheapest, fastest route. Right, you know how to do this stuff? Great, take it, get it done for me. I don't have to do it myself because I don't really understand finances that well. You do it for me. And then after everything's kicked off about previous flats, then I'd be thinking, let me have a close look at this. And I'll give it to an expert who cost me a lot more money. And the expert comes back and says, you've underpaid here, mate. And now I'm thinking, great, I'm screwed.
I'm sorry. She has had trouble with house buying before and house living. She knew perfectly well. She had to get it right. She's the Deputy Prime Minister, for God's sake. She knew she couldn't have any more flack over her house buying. So this is going to come and bite her in the backside. But you know what I think? I kind of want to know where all of this is coming from, because it seems kind of weird to me that all of a sudden stuff is coming out about Angela Rayner. How did we find out about her place and home, the fact she's second home, and the fact she'd registered as her primary residence? I think there's a number of leaks around here from government. From various people in government who might not want her around, because this is just coming out of my head, because she would be catastrophic as Prime Minister, and there's lots of talk that she will be Prime Minister if Keir Starmer gets the boot. And we literally can't have that. We just can't. So it just strikes me that there might be a little bit of a leak campaign against Miss Rayner, which she absolutely deserves if she's done the wrong thing.
Okay, well, Daily Express columnist Cal Malone, thank you very much, and see you again same time next week. Right, the caffeine has worn off, and that's all we've got time for today. Thank you for watching the Daily Expresso. Join us again tomorrow, where we'll show more of our exclusive interview with Nigel Farage, and I'll be joined by Conservative MP Esther McVeigh.